It's pretty much been no secret that Pokemon on the Nintendo Switch generation has been pretty controversial. I mean, pretty much every single title has had some level of controversy surrounding the visual representation of the game, the art style, the graphics, and of course the performance. I feel like the only one that didn't really get that much flack for the actual visuals were the first Pokemon games, of course, that being Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee. Besides those two, I feel like every other Nintendo Switch Pokemon game has had some type of controversy in regards to its visuals or performance. Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl, of course, a lot of people did not like that chibi art style. Scarlet and Violet riddled with performance issues and in general just kind of lacking in the visual departments. And even most recently with Pokemon Legends ZA, that reveal that they did on Pokemon Day, a lot of people have been complaining about the graphics of that too. And so it kind of begs the question, like, is anything going to improve with the next console? Obviously, we know that the Switch 2 is going to be revealed in 3-4 weeks or so, and it's most likely going to release sometime shortly after. So is Pokemon going to improve once we have new Nintendo hardware, once Game Freak has access to a more powerful console? To be completely honest, I don't know if things are going to improve the way that I would hope, or most people would hope it would. A lot of people do kind of make excuses for Game Freak and Pokemon in general on the Nintendo Switch, basically saying that the Nintendo Switch is a severely underpowered console, so they're kind of, working with what they have. But the reality of it is that we have seen a ton of more visually impressive games on the Nintendo Switch from both Nintendo developers as well as non-Nintendo developers, right? Third-party developers and stuff like that. And we've seen what the Switch can actually do. The Switch has games like Hogwarts Legacy, The Witcher 3, Dying Light, and then of course there are Nintendo games, right? Astral Chain, Xenoblade, the entire Xenoblade series, and these games are all kind of just proof that the Nintendo Switch is capable of a lot more than people sometimes give it credit for. And when you look at the alternative, right, with Pokemon, and specifically with Scarlet and Violet, it's very clear that they were not really tapping into what the Nintendo Switch is actually capable of. Now with Pokemon Legends ZA being revealed, we do have to remember that this is early footage. Obviously, the game is not, releasing tomorrow or anything like that, so things can change. But for the most part, I don't think we're going to see too much of a visual improvement overall. And considering that, I don't know, it just kind of feels like, yeah, it does look like there is some slight improvements, but overall, it still feels like Game Freak is just not capable of actually tapping into what is possible with the Nintendo Switch. It doesn't feel like they're actually taking advantage of that hardware and utilizing it like some of these other developers have done in the past. And that kind of makes me feel like they're not going to end up actually doing that with the Switch 2 either. Like, yes, things might improve a bit because they are going to have access to a much more powerful console. But the reality of it is that if they weren't able to actually harness the power of the current Nintendo Switch, I don't think giving them a new console is just going to magically fix all the problems. I would love to be wrong, of course, because like many people, I want to see improvements with the Pokemon lineup of games. I mean, this is something that people say all the time, but this is one of the, if not the most richest media franchises in the world. They can definitely afford to put in, the manpower, the resources and stuff to really make this series into something better than what we've been getting in the last couple of games. I want to be 100% clear. I actually have really enjoyed the last few Pokemon games in regards to, some of the gameplay changes, the stories, characters, the new Pokemon that have been added, things like that. It's just the visual department that I feel like has been lacking. And of course, there are obviously performance issues on top of that, especially with Scarlet and Violet. But that's kind of what I wanted to focus on. Sometimes I feel like when people do talk about the issues, they kind of gloss over some of the redeeming qualities and they kind of just focus on the negative. But I'm definitely not hating on these games or anything. I want them to improve for the better. And I do think that they have redeeming qualities that still make this franchise one of the best in the world. But it is, of course, that visual department. I just really hope that Game Freak does improve in actually utilizing both the Nintendo Switch and the Switch 2 hardware. I don't think a new console is going to magically fix all of the issues. I think there are, a lot of other issues, like underlying issues that are affecting their performance on these games and stuff. If I'm being completely honest too, I don't think we're going to see immediate improvements just because of the fact that we have to remember Pokemon Legends ZA is going to be a cross-generational title, which means it's going to be on both Switch 1 and Switch 2. So it's going to be held back by what it could actually look like and actually perform like on Switch 2 because they have to keep Switch 1 in mind. And based off of the Pokemon Terra Leak rumors, it seems like Generation 10, aka the next gen after Scarlet and Violet, that generation of games supposedly is also going to be a Switch 1 and Switch 2 release. And if that is true, that basically means we're not going to be getting a Switch 2 Pokemon focused game until at least like 2027, 2028. So I feel like with the Switch 2, we're not going to see like insane generational leaps with Pokemon until at least like whatever comes after Generation 10. Again, assuming that Gen 10 does actually release on Switch 1 and Switch 2. Because again, at the end of the day, all of these games, whichever ones continue to release on Switch 1, they're going to be held back by the Switch 1 hardware, because that's going to be like the lowest common denominator that Game Freak has to keep in mind. And they've obviously proven over the last like 8 years that they just can't really take advantage of this hardware with the direction that they're currently going. Kind of makes me feel like they should just go back to the Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee art style and that type of game as well. Like, it still feels kind of like open world or open sandboxy at least. It's still adventurous, but obviously it is very much linear still, and just basically focusing on a game that is designed like the older ones, but with the graphics of something more modern like Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee. I feel like that game, I know it had its fair share of issues and controversies itself and stuff, but I feel like that game kind of is like Pokemon's peak so far in regards to art style and overall graphics, and it feels like everything after that has kind of been like a downgrade. But yeah, that's just kind of what I think. Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. Do you think Game Freak is going to improve with the Switch 2 hardware? Is Pokemon going to be saved essentially by this next console, or do you think these issues that have been plaguing Pokemon over the last couple of games, are they going to continue onto the new hardware? Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. Always interested in hearing your guys' thoughts. Subscribe if you haven't already. We're getting really close to our first 1,000 subscribers here on the channel. And yeah, with all that being said, thank you for watching. Have a fantastic day, and I'll see you in the next one.